Info Plus for genuine information.
Excellency, you are very popular on my show.
Thank you for inviting me on your show again.
Before going into the AIBT case, let me ask you a couple of questions which is related to that scenario.
Yeah.
This year only more than 20,000 students are supposed to go to Australia.
Yeah.
In this 2018, I guess. We all know that number is going very, very high.
Yeah.
This number sustainable or not? What's your suggestion to especially those parents who are just planning to send their children to Australia for the study? Australia is, of course, top destinations at the moment, and first choice for study abroad.
Yeah, and look, and that's a fair question, and it's something that we're looking at and examining because before I was posted here as an ambassador, we were looking at much smaller numbers in Australia, like to the tune of 16,000, 20,000. In the last 2 years, it has gone up to 49,000 Nepalis currently studying in Australia. And so we look at a number of the drivers for that. Obviously, I think the quality of the education is a key element.
Exactly.
Perhaps Australia is overly efficient in terms of visa processing because we now have a consolidated team in New Delhi that are providing us the capacity to actually process far more visas than we'd ever had or been able to before. We recognise too that there is that attraction of being able to work in Australia for 20 hours a week when you study. But it's very important to know that those 20 hours a week are not intended to provide a Nepali with the means to live in Australia. Australia is a high-cost environment. So that 20 hours, my daughter goes to university at the moment. She works probably around 20 hours.
UTS.
She's at UTS, yes. But the purpose of that is to allow Nepalis and other nationals to actually have that other level of interaction with Australian society. It's not designed to be able to either support yourselves in Australia or to send money home, because obviously that's an enormous distraction. So,
exactly.
So we are looking at the sustainability. We want it to be sustainable. We want to protect the reputation of Australian institutions, of Australia as a quality service provider, and we also want to ensure that the Nepalis who choose Australia or choose any international destination, it's a big choice, that they have the best opportunity to perform as well as they possibly can and to gain that qualification that will hold them in great stead in future life. So we are watching it. We are working with the education consultancy sector, we're working with government, we are having conversations to ensure that we have strong governance within the sector. But ultimately, the responsibility does lie with the student, and you can't devolve all responsibility to a consultant. We do have the www.studyinaustralia.gov.au website, which provides a whole breadth of information. So it's easy for perhaps prospective students just to double check what they're being told and to ensure that any course that they're choosing is actually right for them and what they want to do later on.
Excellency, do you indicate that the process will get tougher in coming days?
Oh, look, I'm pretty confident that our systems are very robust, so I don't anticipate that at the moment. If we do get a sense that certain actors in the consultancy space are perhaps not doing the right thing, or even if institutions are not doing the right thing, we will examine that and we'll take any necessary course of action.
How do you see the practices of consultancy? Because mostly students route from the consultancy to Australia. So do you sense that, they are giving proper information to the students so that, they are going into a right path or right directions? And do you sense that?
I don't know. I'm not in the room when that advice is being given. But, as a rule of thumb, I'd recommend if a student chooses a consultant and they don't have to choose a consultant, there are avenues for online information.
Websites and everything.
But if they do choose, then choose an agent, particularly in the tertiary sector, that doesn't charge for their services.
Yes.
Because that is a firm indication, apart from the fact that it saves them money, but it's also a firm indication that they have those appropriate linkages with the institutions.
Let me put a question regarding the case of AIBT. Especially, this is a huge concern of Nepali parents, and we used to receive many questions from them. What could be the possible help for Nepali, especially parents, because more than 1,000 of students studying at AIBT, and there are other institutions also lined up. In the same process, maybe other students get suffered. At this point of time, what's your message to especially those parents, and what could be the possible options? Can you give these are the possible options for those students who are studying there?
AIBT, and there has been conversations in terms of why were visas issued for these kind of courses, but the fact remains that there's no locked link between a course and an occupation. Okay. So for example, this particular nursing course would potentially provide the certification to work in the aged care sector, for example. But because it's not ANMAC accredited with the Nursing and Midwifery Council, it does not provide a pathway to Australian accredited nursing qualification. Now that should be quite clear in any documentation offer, education offer letters by the institution, and if it's not, then that would be subject to a whole separate process in terms of consumer law and legal recourse there. But the advice that we're giving students at the moment is that it's still operating as a business. It has perfect right of appeal as well. That in order to abide by the conditions of their visa and to stay in Australia, they need to continue to attend lectures and coursework. And if at some stage, and I don't want to preempt what the final decision will be or the response to the appeal, but there are mechanisms to and a responsibility of the provider to support transition to an alternative course.
If we see the point of view of students, what are the other areas? If they really want to quit the study or want to get credit to the other institutions, because they already spent 1.5 or 2 years at that institutions. Excellency, is there any way forward for
well, as I
students?
understand it, there would be assessments
because
made in terms of...
They have to get, secure the 7 on IELTS or something
and
that.
actually that's actually an important issue that you raise as well in terms of the English proficiency.
Exactly.
So for those students who may be studying and who don't have that level of language proficiency, that will be a real barrier. You need a level 7 to ensure that once you've completed a ANMAC accredited nursing diploma, that you then have the demonstrated language proficiency to get that nursing qualification. So there's 2 steps to it. It's the completing the coursework and also having the language proficiency. Now, if there are Nepali students studying at institutions that do not have that level of proficiency, that could be a block in any case to pursuing a nursing qualification.
Anything for the parents?
For the parents, look, I think it's really important for parents to actually be involved in the decision making of their kids as well.
Don't leave children alone.
Well, it's a joint decision. and I know as a parent of a university student that we were taking a very firm interest in the courses that my daughter was interested in pursuing, particularly given that I'll be funding that course.
Okay.
So I think my advice to parents and prospective students is to engage very early on, have those conversations with your son, with your daughter, if you choose a consultancy, with the consultants itself, check the website, and just be part of that triangulation and double checking that the course that you're looking to enrol in is actually the one that is right for you.
Thank you, Excellency. Thank you so much for your time.
No, absolute pleasure.
Info Plus, for genuine information.